that you do.
Hello, everybody. So, spiritual business breakthrough calls are where you bring questions and you can talk about really whatever you're curious about related to your business. And most people here have spiritual businesses. I also feel like there's special kinds of beings that usually start those businesses that might I feel like need a different approach to business or need some different practices that keep them feeling balanced and centered as they're creating their business. I don't know. What do you want to talk about as we wait for some questions to arrive?
I think you were doing a good job. I think you just carry on.
Just kidding.
Mhm.
Well, I know that we were talking about intentional business creation,
Mhm.
which would be basically operating from the premise that we are conscious creators of our reality, that we are choosing based on our own belief systems. And that doesn't mean that there's nothing for you to do or there's nothing to be done in terms of actions. But I do feel like we are very eager and excited to have conversations that look at both of those things of like, what are you doing to align yourself with um, the energies of ease, the energies of bringing the opportunities of people, clients, ideas that are in alignment with what you're creating, and then actually moving forward and taking the action. So that's my intention, is that both things are a part of our conversation. What do you think?
I think that's important because sometimes I think that people can maybe have too much. We kind of talked about it last time we were on here together, is about that people can have almost the higher spiritual ideal and then cling too much to that, almost like saying, I visualize this thing happening in my
Mm,
business and that's enough. But then there's that other part again about, action is still needed. So that is then the conscious part. So I think intentional, when you were talking about it, I was thinking about this. Intentional is important because it's about where are you choosing to go rather than
mm,
where you can end up. So then looking at it and saying having an intention is important, but also then knowing the conscious steps to do it. And I think sometimes people can end up on either ends of the spectrum there. Some people are entirely logical, rational, but then maybe then they're not looking at that higher intention or mission with what they might want to do. And I think both of them are important.
yeah, I was having a chat with like a potential client today, and what I think always comes up is that there's a lot of reasons to not do the things that we want to do. Reasons that I feel like there's a lot of people that are uncomfortable with selling or marketing or being seen with their gifts. And I feel like the only way for people to actually do it, like it has to be a reason that's bigger than themselves, something they care about that engages that the why, because I think that's really the only way that people are going to stick with it long enough for it to matter.
Well, I think it's about having a mission, really. So it's about a mission or a purpose, right? That if you can like what you're building if you can link it to a purpose or a mission, then you've got more energy to draw from because it's not just about your benefit, it's about this bigger picture.
I'm going to put a little thing in here for people to ask their questions below. It's basically, we're here to answer questions that are specific to you. I know in the past we've talked about different challenges that people have around charging for their business or getting over the guilt of that, or things that people are continually running into that seems to be like a problem that's reoccurring, and they're trying to find a new way to approach it or to get past it in their business. So we want to hear your questions. I think it's always more fun to interact with like actually like a real life thing, so that you benefit, so that the other people around you benefit as well. There's probably a lot of other people that have that same question or that same challenge. So join us by just commenting there, or I did post it. I think it's only in the Practical Mystic group. There's a link in there. If you would like live coaching, if you want to have a conversation with us, it is easier to dive deeper if we can ask you things, because there's times where I'm trying to gather more information from you in the comments, and I have to kind of wait for you to comment and see what you write and ask another question. And so sometimes if there's something that you want to dive deeper on and you're willing to come and have a conversation with us, as long as you're cool with it being live, it is something that is broadcast in many different places. It goes, it's going to go on to a podcast at some point. So as long as you are cool with that, you will receive some free coaching and you'll get help in the moment, which is, I mean, you know, if you were lined and you have a big challenge, maybe there's a reason that you were put here so that you can move past it, right?
Are you going to do live coaching on this?
We could, yeah. Live conversations, business conversations, you know. But yeah, I think that we'll see if people have questions, and if not, then we'll have a conversation amongst ourselves, and it'll just be that, you know. I need to sit back in my seat because I feel like I keep shaking my computer camera furiously with my excitement.
Is there a lot of excitement?
I mean, yeah, I feel like I have that just excited puppy energy that I bring to things sometimes. And so I feel like sometimes I just start shaking the desk, and it's probably not a good viewing experience for people. Nothing. Well, I don't know. I'm not really sure. We don't have any questions as of yet. I feel like it's kind of quiet in here this evening. Maybe I should put it on TikTok just to open it up a little bit more. I'm going to take that nudge.
What spiritual business breakthroughs have you had recently that you'd like to discuss, or big ones along your way?
Wow. I would say, let me start the live here. Business. Okay. I'm just going to take this as a universal nudge to go on TikTok if it's quiet on here, just to see if there's more people that want to hang out with us there. Okay. So for me, I feel like, well, there was that Neville Goddard quote that we were talking about related to our reality basically being a reflection of ourselves. And so I feel like that's why I've been talking a lot about people's stories and guiding people to use their own story. I feel like your self-concept and your story and how you see yourself is really big, because I think that that's what I've had to break down, like for myself, in order to move up. Because it's like with my process of getting divorced, I felt like I had to up level immediately, and it wasn't necessarily like that was my why, as it was just like, okay, well, this has to be done now. And I feel like sometimes if we have too many safety nets, or we make it too safe for ourselves or too comfy, and we cling to that comfort, then we might not ever make those changes. But I feel like for me, it's had to be like a complete breakdown of my identity to feel like if my business had reached a certain level of success, which was, I mean, initially all that I wanted to do was be a coach and be like, cool, I just want to make like, you know, $50,000, $60,000. I'll just take, you know, 10 clients one-on-one and like 500 a month. That just sounds great. I just want to replace whatever income I had doing like my previous stuff that I did, you know, when I worked in corporate, and just make that, you know. And I'm like, oh, and I'll be happy. But then it came a time where like that wasn't what I wanted anymore. That wasn't going to get me the life that I wanted to live here in Orange County. And it's like I felt like for me it had to be a complete breakdown of my identity and how I saw myself. Some of that I feel like was inherited identity of what people told me was good enough. Some of it was identity and masks that I had placed on myself to fit in or to be safe. And so I feel like for me, the biggest breakthrough that I've had that allowed me to even try different things, approach things differently, show up in different ways, make different kinds of content, was fundamentally seeing myself different and being willing to say, well, maybe I'm not who I thought that I was, and maybe I'm somebody completely different. And that's been a fucking painful process though at the same time, because I feel like it's like all of these old characters that you've played and these old parts of identity have died off. And that's painful. It's like really, it's a really challenging process of like bringing love to those parts of yourself. So that's been, if I had to like put all of my latest things like under one umbrella, I think that would be it, you know.
That's a good one. Identity, you know.
People are asking, I think that I might have had I didn't change in the
You're last
settings
for
that I'm not
readings.
doing readings right now. Yeah. I mean, even if I say that I'm not doing readings, and usually people will, but I just kind of went live really quickly. So, um, how does Jalen feel about me? And I don't typically do those. Although it's funny because my friend was asking me about her daughter, like if her daughter should get a reading about those things, and then I'm like, oh, I was like, what would be most useful for a 17-year-old? What would I want to teach 17-year-old me about this stuff? No. Would you
What would you?
approach
What would
things
you?
differently? Why? I'm not the star of this show right now. I'm like, you're here as well. And so I think that I'm trying to nudge you to give some of your opinions here now.
About what?
When people are asking about, trying to bring in like a lover, or something like that, what would you tell people to do instead of asking for a reading? What might be more useful for them in
Well,
their
what was the question
intentional reality
specifically?
creation? Well, this person's specifically asking about how does Jalen feel about me, but I feel like in general, I feel like that's something that pops up a lot on readings. Although maybe that's a total sidetrack from the business stuff.
I think it is. And you might want to ask. You might want to ask the person directly. That's one of the best ways to find out.
Yeah, there's a lot of those love questions going on TikTok. Yeah. I mean, in general, for those asking love questions, I don't typically do the love readings on TikTok, so I'm probably not your girl for that tonight. But if you have a business and you want to talk about some spiritual business breakthroughs, tell us what you need help with.
If it's a question that they need to ask a lot, and if that's a question that's been going around their head a lot, then they might want to look at, well, why? There might be a theme there.
Yes. Yeah, Teresa as well, I feel like is asking about, I feel like that, Teresa, you're asking kind of more of a readings based question. I mean, I guess it's good I'm doing live, not doing readings, so people can get used to me doing other things. Because I think for a long time, that's just the only kinds of lives that I did. But tonight, we're doing spiritual business breakthroughs. So if there's a question that you have of something that you're trying to create in your business, a specific goal, tell us about what it is that you want in your business. Teresa, I do think that we could work with that kind of question, but instead of it being like, oh, pull some cards and read the energy and tell me the answer, it's more going to be like, okay, well, let's look at this and how you can take matters into your own hands and get the fuck out of that job that you don't want anymore. I think that that's more what we're doing here tonight. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. Begin to look at, well, what was the question again? There was a part about the nursing job, but there was something else.
Yeah. So within that, I hear Teresa's desire. So she said, do you see me getting out of my nursing job, soon to be working from home as my own boss?
Well, see, that's an interesting thing because that comes down to that's fatalistic, right? Like something will decide that for me. So it's about you'll decide that. We can't really tell you that. It's about looking at it and saying that both possibilities exist. There's probably both timelines. A timeline where you could continue in the nursing and you might not like that one, and a timeline where you do something different. But it's almost like it won't be something outside of you that makes that choice for you. Certain things in the environment can stack the deck a certain way, but you would know the answer to that question. If you
And
meet,
if we do readings, it's really only looking at the energy of the moment or looking at what are the steps for you to take to change paths.
yeah, and I'd begin to look at it and say, you want to get into the energy of what it would feel like to have something else. That's a key part. So, like, what would it feel like to not have that, to be working somewhere else? Did she mention an
Yeah.
at-home job, working from home? So
Yeah,
be like,
she says
well, what would it be
specifically
like to
being
do
her own
that?
boss. Yeah, so I feel like for you, Teresa, that I would almost sit down and like develop a separate
Yeah,
persona or identity around being your own boss, and maybe do some journaling from many different angles of like, okay, well, what is this person like? What do I imagine her to be like? How does she start her mornings? Like, what does she
What does she tell
value?
herself?
How does she talk to herself? How does she
How does she
dress?
spend her time?
Hmm.
Who does she listen to?
Basically, yes, yes. Every aspect of that person in that life already. And basically, you being that person. And even if you have to pretend for a little while and do whatever you need to do to get into that place, like at some point, it starts to just become you. I mean,
You
it,
build
it
new
is you.
patterns. You build new patterns of thinking, feeling, acting. Because a lot of what we are is really a pattern. So if you change something in that pattern, then you change.
Mm,
Another thing I'd say too is to create future memories that haven't happened yet. And because that's an interesting thing, right? So about if you were to take some time each day and say, imagine yourself um, sometime in the future working from home and it's already done. Like it's already been like that a while, 6 months, a year, something like that. And maybe imagine like you're looking at, it might be a record of sales, it might be your bank balance, but something that lets you know that that's been successful for you. And you want to kind of allow your imagination at first to go into that outcome and allow yourself to feel that. And it will feel like it's made up because it's not here yet, but you can create a sensory memory in your body of that outcome before it happens, because you want to be it, then you'll do it, and then you'll have it. So what Ashley's talking about there, about writing out those things, right, is about getting into the being of that kind of person.
mm, mm.
And mine's color's glitching here, so let me change the color of the light. There we go. Oh, that should be it. Okay, so that's what it is. So it's almost like looking at not so much about where we are now, but where how you would like it to be. Who is that person? What does it feel like? I have a few ideas that I've started and I feel like I finally know what direction to go in, but how to get more audience. Yes, I'm
Mm,
on it. Okay, good. How to get more audience. So here's an interesting thing about that. So this back to the start of the conversation tonight, we've got intentional and then we've got the conscious. So there's part of this that is going to actually be the steps that you take, but then
mm-hmm.
there's the part before that that
Yes.
goes right through that, and that's the intention, the outcome. So before ever, whenever you're looking at what a next step is, and this is really, 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 really important, so people take note of this. So you want to be in the energy or the state of the outcome before you ask how. So like imagine, right, you're in a room with like an infinite number of staircases, and then you go, how do I know which step to take? Well, where do you want to go? Oh, well, I want to get to work, earn a certain amount in this business. Well, that's that staircase. So only once you're clear why you want to climb that, only then ask yourself, well, what's the next step? Because if
Mm-hmm.
not, you're just like, well, there's all these staircases, I don't know what to do.
Yes.
So get into the being of it. So that's, imagine like closing your eyes and imagine that it's done. It's not in progress, it's done. And then from that energy, when you're in the feeling of that, then you ask yourself, what's my next step? Why?
Mm,
Because then your perceptions, your filters are all then in alignment. So it's like with the staircase example, you've defined where you want to be and you found the staircase that leads there. Now we know what step to take. If not, it's like we're just taking a step here, step there, and we're like, why am I not getting anywhere? So we set the outcome and we reverse engineer from the outcome. This is
mm.
a huge thing that most people miss. So people don't do that and they're like, how come I don't get anywhere? It's like, well, where you want to go? Somewhere better. So it's like getting a cab and going, hey, take me somewhere good. And he's like, well, my idea of good's different than yours, buddy. You
It's
know,
like my kids when they say something else.
something
I
else.
want
It's so
something
easy to be
else.
something else, isn't it?
And I was like, what something else specifically do you
Yes.
want?
How do I get you? Yeah. So I think that's a piece there. So how do you get more audience? Well, you've got two things with that. To get an audience, you either pay with time or you pay with money. Paying with money is getting advertising, right? Working with someone and putting some ads out there. If you don't want to do that, then you it's time. So that can be old traditional things, going in places where people who that you'd be looking to work with gather, um, blogs, going on social media. But so if you don't want to do ads, then it's the organic approach, and on that one, it's about going out, meeting people or online,
Hmm.
bringing awareness to what you do. So those are the things how you get more of an audience. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a few things that I really love about what you're saying is that the being like really helps to define the doing, but that you have to have that intention and that clear direction to have your GPS set to even inform that way of
Yes,
being.
that's a really good example, because if you don't put the destination in the GPS, it won't give you the turn by turn. So when we say, what do I do next? It's like the GPS, right? You open Waze or Google Maps, and you're like, fuck, it's not telling me like where to go, and it's like, well, you haven't told it where you want to go. So it's about
Mm,
start from the outcome. If we don't, because remember, uh, if we are living in a reactive universe, what's it reacting to? Our internal stuff.
hmm,
So it's about, if we don't define the outcome, we're going to just flow with the path of least resistance
mm,
generally. And the truth
yeah.
is, most people flow down the path of the river of least resistance, the path of least resistance, and end up disappointed in their life. So it's about everybody. And also another thing actually that's important too, we sacrifice heavily in when we make security and stability our highest priority, we sacrifice a lot. So sometimes you don't
Mm,
want to take risk, but I don't think anything good ever happened from avoiding risk. Now, does that mean being totally reckless? No. But it means to say that many people stick with the job they don't want because of the overwhelm of going for the one they do. Sometimes there's a way to do something in the middle and build part-time, especially with something from home. But it's
yeah.
really looking at and saying, if we can't, we need to spend more and more of our time, like Ashley was saying, if we go into the outcome and then we say, okay, what am I thinking as this person? What am I doing as this person? What's my routine as this person? What kind of people do I associate with as this person?
Mm,
When I read something as that person, where am I going for my information? When I listen to something, what am I listening to? Is it dance music, or is it like a podcast, or something that uplifts me or gets me closer to my goal? It's a lot of those things. So it's almost about getting into the outcome and the person you'd be at the outcome now, because then you're moving towards that. Most people with their conscious mind see that they're not that, so then they don't do the things that would get them there, or if they do, they're using willpower and trying to push themselves. But it's not inspired.
mhm.
Inspired action is when you're motivated because you've given your mind, your body, the opportunity to imagine being in that outcome, and that produces the energy that we call motivation, and that allows us to take inspired action. Very, 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 very important. Anyway, there's a whole rant for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. Teresa's saying, this opened my eyes for sure. Bless you both for helping me. I see clearer now. Good. Good.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Um,
Thank you. I'm glad.
um, Aurora says, you'll fill in the gap. I totally get it now. Yes. Yes.
Yes, 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 yes.
And so, for those that would like to get involved here, we are answering business questions. Specifically, I feel like healers, people with a spiritual business, people that have service based businesses as practitioners. I feel like if you don't have necessarily what you would call a spiritual business, I still think this stuff applies to everyone. I feel like what we were talking about a lot today is that there's certain kinds of business owners that I think that we would consider to be people in our community that maybe just have a different kind of approach, like that they take things in differently, that there's just more sensitivity to and how that they are experiencing building a business. I feel like requires sometimes some different approaches, or it's almost like their thinking is so complex about things that they need to be settled in ways to have all of those things aligned within their mind. How would you I mean, how do you think that business feels maybe different for you, like as someone that's a more sensitive individual, more of like an empath than it might be for other peers?
Well, what I would say for me is a couple of things to talk about there. Is about, it was hard for me. I did have, a whole previous career, but it was hard for me to do things that I didn't really feel emotionally invested in. So like just
Yeah.
money and stuff wasn't really enough for me. So what I would say is, in alignment with that, having a higher mission or purpose. And for me, that was looking at and saying, if I could help people with things that I've experienced some things in my life that weren't pleasant. And I think that gives you like an awareness of pain. And then I thought,
Mm,
well, if I could help people in some way with that, that would be great. And I thought overall, when you look at the news and stuff like that, you're like, fuck, the consciousness does need to come up a bit, doesn't it? And I thought if I could help people with that, not because I think they need to, but if they want to, and I could help them with that,
mm,
then I think, well, that's great. Then there's a ripple effect, because when we're changing and getting, when this is the thing about it, when we're happy and we're fulfilled, our being is transformative to others.
mhm,
If not, maybe we're then super concerned with doing or having things that are then transformative. But it's about what of your being could be transformative. So here's an interesting thing about that too, is I think that sometimes when it comes to business and spiritual people or empaths, things like this, is that it can almost be that there's like, it's dirty to make money, it's dirty to sell. So sometimes I
mhm,
think about having this bigger picture about, well, what is your mission, and then link what you're doing to your mission. And if it doesn't align with your mission, then we need to look at our mission again or change our actions, either one.
mm,
But it's looking at and saying most people don't do shit just for the sake of doing it. It's about, we need that bigger why. So if your business is satisfied and you making a lot of money and being very successful in the 3D is allowing you to achieve this bigger mission, then great. Then it becomes about, here's an interesting thing. Well, how many how many of these things can I sell? If how many of these sessions can I do if that's the outcome? So I have a goal in mind, and I have a few different ways or tools to help me get there. Can sharing these tools at once flow or be too scatterbrained? Well, here's the interesting thing I would say. Oh, do you want to take that, Ashley?
yeah, well, let me read it out loud
What are
too,
the
just
tools?
so that people could hear if they're joining on like the podcast. So, Aurora, you're saying, so I have a goal in mind and I have a few different ways or tools to help get there. Could sharing these tools at once flow or be too scatterbrained? I'm not sure I understand. Let me see what else she's saying here. Thinking about them, feel that they all gear towards awareness and finances for a cause, mission, or purpose. I'm not sure what the question, like, okay, so I hear that you have tools that you want to share, but is it what, I guess I'm trying to understand what the your goal
Tools to
is.
fulfill a mission, or are you talking about tools to share with people?
Can you clarify, Aurora? Just share a little bit more on that. Um,
Tools to help people or tools to reach your mission?
Teresa's saying, now that hit the nail on the head about feeling dirty
Yeah,
selling.
that's a big one. That's a big one. That's
Yeah,
the thing again, though. If you're selling just for selling's sake, right? Um, that can feel funky. But if you really believe in what you're offering, then it's your duty. Think about that.
like what we were listening to today, it was talking about service to self or service to others, that your product and putting something out there that actually helps people is in service to others. And if you know that what you have is better and going to be a better fit for the people that you serve and support, then it's in service to others.
Yep. And well, the thing about that too is, how do you sustain yourself and consistently upgrade your skills and take care of yourself if you're not selling? And here's an interesting thing which I heard once, and it shocked a lot of spiritual people in the room at the time, was about saying there's not many business problems that improving your sales won't solve. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Because having more money creates choices. So choices then allow us to then work on ourselves, work on our business, focus more on the parts that we want, spend more getting clients that are more in line with what we want. But
Mm,
again, back to the point is about that we need a mission. Because if you're selling just to, like, I'll give an example. If there was someone doing a fundraiser for like what was happening in Florida, if they were calling people cold and asking for money and going, you don't want to donate to this, hurricane
just
relief,
helping people in general.
just helping
I just want
people.
to
Yeah.
generally
Rather than
help
like, oh,
everyone. Yeah.
yes, if you're sold on that mission though, if like we want this money for that, and you really believe that every call you make could get more assistance to those people who need it, then you'd probably be hammering out those
Mm,
calls. So it's about, as long as what you're selling is this is an important thing. If you believe in what you're selling, it's not funky. If you don't believe in it and you're selling it just for the money, that's what's funky. So I look at it and think that, and also having a big mission, then it's, if what you're selling is serving a bigger mission, then you'll find the value in it, and it'll be much easier.
Yeah.
You're
I'd
not
say
selling for money, you're selling for this mission.
in my free stuff in my link in bio, I guess, depending on where people are watching it, like the journal questions about purpose, I feel like would be
Mm.
really good for that, because
Yep.
I think the thing is like for almost every person I've coached, for the most part, they've always started out very general, like very, very general. And I can tell that they're not connected with it. I don't feel their heart energy connected with it. But then when they start diving down and they start getting more specific and how it relates to their story and like what they want for these people specifically. And then you start to feel it. You feel that energy emanating from them. And I feel like that's the big shift. It's like if it's not specific enough, I always say it with readings as well, that like specific energies get you more specific answers. And so I feel like that more specific connection to your purpose and mission, it gives you kind of like a more specific key to access those feelings, those
Yeah.
sensations, that beingness that's associated with it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yes, that's good. That's really good. So I see Aurora asking a question. So I have branding packages and I have a moving forward sale and GoFundMe that will be gearing funds towards DV victims. The tools are the packages, sale, and GFM. Does this help? And she says, so purpose behind the call makes it genuine, not salesy.
Can you put the previous comment back up?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that, I guess what I would want to know, Aurora, like, I guess there's a few things.
Mm.
If you're going to package something together, like I would say to give it a purpose or a specific reason about
Yeah.
how those things are used together and who specifically it's for. So that it, like I think that, or like at least some direction on like maybe use this and then this and that. Like I think that would probably be more effective. And then I think maybe let's talk about this and then we'll talk about the sales thing, since I feel like that's a different question.
I think here you could offer each one separately, but have a mission or a purpose that behind them all, and say that people can interact with one, two, or all of them. Because people might not want to be involved in all of it. So I'd say
Mm,
you could give people options, or say they can be involved in all of it, and here's the benefit of it. I don't think it's too scatterbrained, provided you give people choice. Also, it depends about how much you share about it, because if each of those has a huge explanation, then it would be overwhelming then. But in
mm,
terms of scatterbrained, I wouldn't worry about it being scatterbrained for them, maybe for you, because if you're managing all of that stuff, then that might be overwhelming for you. And I would say if it's overwhelming for you, I'd say it's better to do one of those really well than a few of them with some effort. So it kind of depends where they're up to, and how much help there is with it. I think if it's not overwhelming for you, doing all three is an option, but I'd say, you know, that it's all about being able to convey to people what's it for. And it's because people are going to be sold on the outcome it provides more than
mhm,
the tool.
mhm,
The tool's just the thing in the way, but it's about, not in the thing in the way, but the bridge. But the most important thing's the destination. So if you want to do all three, great. All other people might not want to get involved in all three. It's whether you feel you can offer all three, and let people know what the outcome is, and that they can contribute in any of those ways that you're offering. But people will be sold on what it's providing, and but also, like you mentioned, brand
mm.
impact is what it does for them too.
The package your magic course would be good for that.
And if you can really sell, the double win, I think, is if you can sell on the benefit they get, that then also benefits these other people,
Mm-hmm.
then double win, because then they don't feel so guilty about investing in themselves, because they'll
Yes.
feel like, oh, it helps this other thing too. People don't care about features as much as benefits.
And then related to your other question about, so purpose behind
I think it's
the
just adding to that.
call makes it genuine, not salesy. So um, I would say for anybody that has any of that dirty like sales energy, to sell as human. I think it's Daniel Pinkman is really good because he basically talks about how everything is sales ultimately, like even things that we're giving away to people for free, or writing an email or writing a post, even though it's free, there's an element of people are
Yeah.
paying with their
Asking
time.
where do you want to go for dinner? Say, oh, I know this great place, and go, oh, you do? There's sales right there too.
Yeah, so sales is just like it's a part of our everyday life, and it's just like and I think that if you could start to shift and normalize it, I think what it is that for beings like us, like y- there's, I'm always talking to like the spiritual, starseed business owners that just tend to have ways of thinking about things like that maybe the average person doesn't think about. Maybe the average person is like not even caring, right, about what the energy is or how it feels, or not even noticing that. They're just doing it, right? They're just like, oh, this is what we do. But the thing is that I feel like everyone in this community I know has to feel in alignment, and that one way that you can really help yourself and to do it from a place of integrity is write down, like at night, like 10 reasons, right, that what you are selling, maybe that it's actually has 10x the value of what you're selling it for, and all the benefits that people are going to get, and how
Mhm.
there's going to be compounding benefits for those people, and like really like basically sell yourself on the value of it, because I think that your mind just gets
Yes.
so stuck as it in the perspective of, oh, I'm taking something from somebody and therefore they're going to have less.
Yes, and think of the energy dynamic of that. 100%. That's what I was going to come in and say. If you don't believe it really benefits them, then it will feel inauthentic. But if you
Mhm.
really do believe it does benefit them, then it's inauthentic to not sell them.
Yes. And so I feel like, and those reasons could even be why them buying it from you, right, actually is better than them buying it from someone else at the same price or a similar service. So really like take the time to look into it rather than just being like, ooh, there's an icky energy here, so I'm just going to avoid it. Like shift your relationship with that energy. And I feel like that's just a way of shifting your beingness, that and now it's removing all of those weird
Well,
subconscious
and
things, right?
by the way, people spend a lot of money on bullshit. That people spend a lot of money on shit that's not really that important. So then you think about, if what you offer is beneficial, why shouldn't they spend their money on it? Would it be a
Right.
better investment? Particularly, someone might go out for a few meals somewhere. That could be a lot. People buy an extra TV that they don't need, or people who say they've got no money might go and on a vacation somewhere, and you go, it's okay, it's fine. But at the same time, it's like looking at and saying, if you are selling something that benefits them, why not?
Mhm.
If they're going to benefit from that, then we owe it to ourselves to put it out there, because there's a lot of things out there that sell really well that don't really
That are
reflect that,
shitty.
that are
There's a lot
shitty.
of
Yeah.
people that have shitty things, and they're just really good at selling, but even
Yeah.
though what they're
Oh yeah.
selling
We'll
is
see. We'll
not good.
see. Good marketing will cover for a bad product.
And so if you know that your program is actually in integrity and
So
what
if you've
you're
got a good
doing
product,
is actually going to help people, you have a great program, you have a great service, then get past whatever shit you need to get past to be able to feel confident and in your alignment to go out there and share it
how
with
about it's
people.
selfish to not sell to people that we could help?
Hmm.
Think about that, because then they're not getting what they need because of our discomfort.
That's
In
right.
and that's because
It's all
sometimes,
about communicating
and
it.
actually, by the way, it's not, if you've identified a need and you've provided something that fills that need, then it's not about you. Sometimes what gets in our way is we make it about us. Like, I won't sell you on something, Ashley, because I don't know if it feels kind of salesy, so I'm not going to sell you on that thing. And then after this call, I'll just have to hope that you find help somewhere else. But I've prepared, I have the solution, but I just didn't feel right.
Well, I think it does come down to
It's
that
discomfort.
service to self or service to others, but we're not doing a disservice to others by taking an exchange of energy
Energy.
for it, because we that is within this 3D system. money is our energy exchange. We no longer have goats or things like that, or a communal thing where we're like trading products and services. Energy, or money is the energy exchange, and there's no way that you could be sharing your gifts and getting nothing back in it for return, and be sharing your gifts with the world. So if you feel like you have been given a gift and but that somehow you wouldn't be put in a situation where you could
I,
be provided for and share that gift, like really, really
I
think
think
about that.
I think she's got it there. So I think she's actually saying here. So having a purpose behind the call makes it genuine rather than salesy. So I think that she got that actually.
Alignment is key. Yes. Um, True, definitely true. I got it. Definite mindset shift. Okay.
Alignment is like, you know what I realized, and maybe I said this in the last live. 90% of this is that mental emotional work, and 10% is what we actually do.
Mm.
Shocking that, but most people kind of think it's got to be the other way. Like it's 10% of that, but then I got to get out in the world and hustle and all
I
that.
feel like when I am really like on my spiritual A game, like the things that I do are not the things that I would do normally. But sometimes I do things
But
that
it flows better, doesn't it? It
I
flows
feel like
better.
they seem crazy, and then sometimes I actually get a response from things, or I start to see movement, and then I'm just like, oh wait, and then I'm like, okay, like maybe I'm different, or there's more here than I thought for myself. And so it really, it's it's interesting that the actions and the doing steps that you set for yourself when you are on your spiritual A game are just totally different.
Being.
Totally different. Yes. How do you attract soul aligned clients? Mm. Um, I'm going to start with that one, and then you
You
dive in.
the answer is very close to the question, in fact. By
Mm.
being that. Because we're going to
So
attract things that are the mirror of how we are or what we're dealing with.
yes. So I feel like for me, I'm telling people, like, whether it's client attraction or niche, and your niche is really your community, to dive into your story, look at your portals of transformation, because we tend to really, I feel like, look and seek out that support. And I think, wouldn't you say that when we're on those big changes in life, those big portals of transformation, that's like basically like an opening where we've been shaken up in that moment. Our conscious mind is now like, wow, like I'm not asleep anymore. What do I want to create here? What do I want to change? Who do I want to be now? And so I feel like when you link up your offers to those big portals of transformation for people, and you choose one that you've walked through, and then you talk about that story and you speak to those people specifically, there's a real resonance, there's a real heart energy that I feel like people can just feel when
Well,
you're
that's like the
talking
hero's
about
journey
things.
stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like connect with them on the experience level, right? The heart to heart, you know. And in terms of the soul clients part, I think that a key thing is making sure that you're clear about what that is for you, and making sure is your internal dialogue with yourself matching that, is your messaging matching that, are your offers matching that, right? But it's about your beingness is what's attracting people to you.
Yes.
So that's the most important part. So it's about being clear about, well, what is your soul, you know?
Even if you show up different in your beingness and you express different on social media, you attract a different kind of client to you, because the kinds of clients that I initially attracted in my business, I was being very vague and broad initially. And I was just like trying to be like, everyone, I just want you to take me
I want to
seriously
help everyone.
as a coach. I just want to help everyone in their life issues, and just, I want you to tell you all about my experience, so you know how professional I am, and how, you should take me seriously, and so, like, I feel like that I had a lot of, I felt like insecurity. I think that I had barely started my spiritual journey, and I felt like I was just trying to be who I needed to be for other people to take me seriously. And I mean, that's how I approached all of life at that point, though. And so my business was not separate than that, but I felt like the more that I dove into myself and who I was, and just started to follow my own joy. And it was really uncomfortable to show more parts of myself online, because there are certain friendships, or there are certain clients that might be like, this isn't for me, right? Like this is not for me. And you'll see those unsubscribes on your list, and things like that. But I feel like the more that you're willing to just bring that weirdness out, more of that unique magic out, more parts of your story that they might even feel uncomfortable, that another part of you, the past part of you would have never shared because there was just like too much shame and judgment around it. Like we would never want anyone to know that about us. Like the more that you let that part show, like the people that end up being interested in even maybe the same offers that you had before, just a completely different kind of person, and you feel that alignment with them because they're a match for the frequency where you're at, but you have to be willing. Someone has to go first. You have to be willing to be expressing that frequency if other people are going to find it.
Yep.
And let's see what she's saying about that. That's beautiful. What if you don't know who you serve, to be clear? I would say there are two things. One's a free thing that you could do, to go to my free stuff, get my purpose journal questions to help define deeper, like your purpose, your mission, your why. The package or magic course, I haven't upped the price on the back end of Kajabi yet, so it's still up for $3 right now from its beta launch price. And that it's linked to your offers, it's linked to diving into your story, to start to look at your niche differently, and to start to get more specific about who you help and what you help them with, what specific outcome you help them with. So
Yeah.
if you hit my photo on the top left of TikTok, or you go in my, I guess my link in bio on Facebook, then that's in there.
It's a lot of introspective work and analysis and questioning things, but also realizing too that when you do all of that, and Ashley's tools are fantastic for that. I recommend that a lot. I'll walk you through it, but not being married to it and thinking that often what holds people back is thinking they have to get it right first time. And then there's so much pressure, they don't do anything. So sometimes it's about saying, here's the direction I'm going to go in, and let me see what happens over here. And if you find that that's really not at all the kind of people you want to work with, great, then you can readjust again. So don't feel like you're trapped forever when you make a choice, because that's often what keeps people stuck, is the need to get it right first time.
Because I do think it changes naturally.
Definitely.
You evolve as a human. And so I think
and you
you're
might not know until you might put something out there, and then when you get what you asked for, then you might be like, oh wait, I don't want that. Or over time you might want something different.
That's true. They also said, what if I don't know? Oh wait, that was further up. How to sell higher ticket offers and not self-sabotage.
Was that for me then?
For either of us. I
Well,
think we'll both have different perspectives on that.
Well, I think looking at that one, it's looking at it and saying, if it's self-sabotage, that means there's a belief in you about either you don't deserve it or you don't believe in what you're offering. So it's about looking and saying, which one is it? Because then there's going to be a different approach. But looking at it and saying, well, that's, again, when it comes to self-sabotage, I tend to think that if you make it about the other person, that doesn't happen so much. So it's looking at and saying, do you believe that your offer does what it says it's going to do? Do you believe that? If you do believe that, then you have to look at it and say, why don't you deserve more money for it? Like, why don't you? So it depends. You have to really do a bit of questioning with that. Maybe a deepest fear inventory about this is one thing you could do. About, like, what's the fear underneath me selling it? Like, what's the fear? And I think often when it comes to selling high ticket offers, people feel like they're on the hook for more because people are paying more often. But it's looking and saying, can you still get the outcome for them? If you can get the outcome, is it a high value problem? Because selling high ticket offers to people where it's not a high value outcome, meaning it's not something that's pretty critical to them, then you can have a hard time with it. So does it solve a critical problem? So it's wording that I got from another company that I learned from, but they said that people will pay high ticket prices for a bleeding neck problem. So that's what's an example of that. If I got a bleeding fingernail, am I going to go pay thousands of dollars for that? Probably not. If I got blood coming out my neck, and someone's like, I can help you, but it's going to cost $3,000. Well, I was like, well, yeah, sure. Let's get going. That's a kind of graphic example of it, but it's about, if you do believe that it solves a problem for them, and is it an important problem? And actually, another thing, and I'll be quiet in a minute, Ashley. That you want to look at it and say that, have you identified what their problem is, and are you clear about how this offer will help them with it? And are you clear about why it's a problem for them? Because if it's the difference between heaven and hell for them, they'll pay for it. If it's the difference between minor irritation and slight win, they probably won't. But it's about,
Mm,
do you believe in what's being offered? And so, yeah, if yes, then you want to look at yourself. Why don't you deserve more money for it, or why are you not comfortable with making money for it? Is it fear of failure, or is it fear of success? Which one? Um, and it's just getting real about that. Sitting with a pen and paper, journaling out what comes up, thinking about, if you're making an offer to somebody, if you just imagine that, what comes up for you? If somebody says yes, what comes up for you? If somebody says no, what comes up for you? And which one's worse? And looking at it and saying, it's about the self-sabotage part, is about I think there's many, many things to this, but looking and saying, getting comfortable with the image or the feeling of it already being over, of it being done. What's it like to close a deal and feel good about it? What's it like for
mm,
that person to have had the benefit of what you sold them, and to be coming back to you and sharing about how life changing it was? And then
mm.
imagining more and more and more of those, if you believe in what you're selling.
What's the cost of them not making that
Yes,
change?
because there's a cost either way. That's a good point. There's a cost
Yeah.
either way. There's a cost of investing, and that will be
Mhm,
monetary, and there'll be some time, and there'll be some effort. But there's a cost of not doing it. And especially when
mhm.
it comes to business, sometimes the cost financially is worse from not investing than it is from investing.
Right,
Same with health. Because
right.
then I have to go spend all this money to do all these other things to repair the health thing that I could have maybe tackled over here with this.
Mhm, mhm.
Right. So to answer your question there. Anyway, sorry, what's your take on
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's a few things. Like I would definitely recommend that exercise that we mentioned earlier of writing down what it is and like really looking at, okay, like how is this actually 10x more like valuable, right? To like price things and at like what you think maybe it's actually worth 10 times more than that, but every day write down the 10 reasons of why it's worth that amount and why it's actually really important and necessary. And it's going to get your mind engaged in different ways because I feel like typically we just see the surface level thing and that it's almost like everyone has that scarcity wiring of like, oh, I take this amount from them and I kind of feel bad about it because I feel like I'm harming them or hurting them. And so I feel like it's just kind of like a part of that kind of primitive wiring that everyone initially has. But I think that you switch it when you start to see, okay, well, them investing in this, and also for people to make a change, for people to make a big change, like typically you're not going to show up for the free gym membership, or the one that maybe you only paid $5 for, but someone that's paying 300, 800, whatever it is for a personal trainer, and that like they're very invested. So a lot of times like that energy that they're putting towards a higher ticket program is their investment of being like, okay, I'm serious to this, and I'm actually going to follow through with making the change because I have some skin in the game, and that the money is actually them having some skin in the game with their change, as well as it being possible for you to hold the space at the time, all of the expertise that you've needed to gather to be able to solve that challenge for them in a short amount of time, because
it?
it's not that time for money exchange. Like when you are somebody that is like, really specializing in a specific area or in a specific outcome or working with a specific group or community of people, like not only have you probably invested a lot of money in different things, but even all the help that you give to other people and the things that you can see very quickly, very, very quickly, right? For that person that might have taken them months or years if they ever saw it themselves. There's a lot of different things that people are paying for when they pay for those things, and so I think it's really a shifting around of the perspective of how you see it, so that all
Hmm.
of the things, I feel like the healers, the star seeds, I feel like everything needs to be in alignment for them. They need to feel really good, like their values are being honored, like their purpose is being honored, and everything has to be like clicked into place. And so that's what I think is good about these conversations, is that we can help bring people into some alignment so that they can move forward and not have this pending thing that they're not sure how to navigate internally.
I think that's calling out one of those bullshit things too, that it's only authentic spiritually if it's, if there's struggle, or like, it's not making money, or that you should give away your gifts for nothing. That's great if all your 3D needs have been met. Fantastic. If not, then what the hell? And I do think that people, if you need brain surgery, you want to go to the guy who's selling it for $1, or you want to go to the one that's charging 10,000. Which one would you prefer?
Mm-hmm.
The one that's charging 10,000 only has to do one today, probably. So he might be very rested. She may be very well rested. Maybe can keep up with the very best training, have the very best tools. The one that's doing it for $1, what kind of tools has he got? How much time does he have? Has he slept today? How many does he need to do today to be okay? Where did he
Mm-hmm.
train? Can he afford to keep up his training?
Yeah.
How's his facilities? So it's that interesting thing about looking at it and going, when you are the best you can be, and that involves having money so that you can have time and invest in yourself, and not just work stuff, not just business stuff, but the stuff that makes you healthy and happy, mind, body, and spirit. So I do think that then we need to look at this and say, in the spiritual community, there's a weird thing about making good money. It's always like, oh, I just get enough. I don't need much. That's a common one. I don't need much. Just pay my rent. And, so, oh, so like nothing, no future. Huh? And it's a weird thing. There's a lot of people in the world that are making really good money. And you might look at it and go, are they making much of a difference in the world? But we're kind of okay with that. And again, many people will go to a job they don't like rather than charge good money in the thing they do that actually changes people's lives. So you got
Mm-hmm.
to think about what the fuck with that. Yeah.
Yes. What the fuck with that is good. A good question,
Yeah.
right?
So I think that we,
Mm.
if it makes a difference to people,
Just knock that
we,
shit off.
yeah,
Like,
we
just
gotta.
we're done with that
There's
now.
particularly a lot of that. Oh, I give it away for free. It's like, good for you. How's your day job?
I mean, I feel like if that's your path and that's you feel good about that and you feel fully in alignment, great. But if there's a part of your soul that's calling to you and is just like knows that you're not meant to be in the fucking job that you hate, and you owe it basically to the world to get yourself into alignment so that you can radiate that beingness that ultimately, right? That's the shit that really starts to shift things, right? Like on a worldwide basis. And that's what I remember when I first got into coaching is I was like, oh, well, just imagine if everyone just was making money and they just love what they did. Imagine what kind of world that would be if everyone was just feeling really like joyful and aligned. And that would like really shift so many different things in the world.
And it's not authentic to sell years of your life doing something you don't like. When you could be doing something that fulfills you and makes the world a better place, and
Mm-hmm.
that could replace the need for the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not authentic to suffer, in something you don't want, when you could be doing what you do want and making a difference. And if selling does that and allows you to makes the difference between you having a viable business that changes lives, or not having a viable business that changes lives, and ending up working a job you don't want that doesn't, then it's about, well, get selling.
Yep.
But it's about starting. If you're not sold, it's hard to sell. Sell yourself first is the answer to the question.
Mm, yes. And if you're have a lot of excuses and resistance and you keep starting it and stopping it, then
Fears
I would
inventory too.
definitely look there. Oh yeah, deepest fear inventory. That is, you could find that in my group, The Practical Mystic, and it's in the guide section. At the top, that one's a Carolyn Elliott exercise, but I basically like translated it into my own terms and put it there for the group because we like to give people some little exercises and things to start shifting things around. I think we're all complete here. It's been about an hour. I feel complete.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for hanging out. Work, and they know where to find you, don't they? So
Oh yeah, maybe we just kind of threw you in here today and figured maybe some of them will start to know where you are. I don't know how to tag you here on TikTok, but soon enough you'll start posting on TikTok, and then you could also be live on the screen on TikTok as well, right?
Craig Mackay at Freedom Hypnosis. Website is freedomhypnosisnyc.com. Freedomhypnosisnyc.com.
You could put
Anyway,
your link in the comments as well in the group.
all right then.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody. Thank you for watching, and thank you for the questions and comments.
Bye everybody. Good
Bye.
night. Mm.